Hey everyone, I'm Ben Kaplan, the CEO of Top Worldwide, and welcome to the new rules of influencer marketing. And the idea today is to give you as much kind of actionable, sort of tips, advice, how-to that you can go use tomorrow. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen right now. This is the new rules of influencer marketing. One of the things I always say is be careful who you take advice from, but be patient with those who give it. Basically the 45-second version of who we are. We're a global marketing agency. We do a heck of a lot of influencer campaigns, data-driven thinking in our DNA, and we do this all over the world. TOP is actually an acronym that stands for Test, Optimize, and Perform. So we love trying out sample influencers, turning them into more ongoing brand ambassadors, and then scaling that up to a lot of business results. We'll talk about some of that. We do lots of different things in 6 functional groups, but we're going to draw upon influencer marketing and also show some relationships to PR, even SEO, some other fields today. These are some of the sectors we work in, and this is where we do it. And so I love it when we'll work for, like, say, one of our clients like Bowflex, and we'll do influencer campaigns, the same campaign in 10 countries simultaneously. It's pretty amazing. And it's pretty amazing how influencer marketing has really spread all across the world. And one of the biggest differences, which we'll talk about here in a second, is how some of the changes in just paid advertising overall have brought some paid advertising practices over to influencer marketing. If you've worked in the space, you say, hey, does it seem like prices are rising a little bit? Yes, they have. Does it seem like there's more of a sense of sort of a transactional nature to it? Yes, it can be if you don't allow it to build organic, authentic relationships. So there's been a lot of changes as certain ad budgets. I think it's just kind of a feather in the cap of influencer marketing have included, and some big ad agencies have started including influencer marketing as a deliverable. As a result, it has become treated a little bit more like an advertisement in many situations. And if you can make it not be treated like that or not feel like that, you can often make campaigns perform incredibly well and better than before. So to start off, I thought it'd be fun to play a little bit of what I call the influencer game, just for some recent work we've done. Just quiz you on this and what you think the answer to this, to these kind of influencer questions. See your experience level, and then we'll jump in and give you 10 new rules. So first of all, question is this: which of these dudes here have a greater social presence? Is it Matt LeBlanc from Friends fame, option A? Or is it the Dude Perfect guys from option B? Well, the answer is Dude Perfect. I just want to give you a sense is that sort of in influencer land, maybe the general public, Matt LeBlanc might be more well-known if you ever watched Friends at all. But Dude Perfect is actually a lot bigger. And these are a little bit of old numbers, so it's a lot bigger in influencer land. So sometimes it's kind of its own, very popular to sort of say like metaverse right now as kind of its own like sort of alternate universe. The influencerverse can be different and sort of turn things on its head, and certain people are more influential than you might expect in other contexts. Which we needed to hire both. So which comedian is more expensive to hire? Is it Terry Crews? He's in a number of shows, movies, I believe a show in Reno 911 comedy, or Jim Gaffigan is a stand-up comic, very famous on Netflix, known for his Hot Pockets routine. Who do you think more expensive to hire? We priced both. It is Jim. Just to give you a sense of scale, $1 million fee to work on influencer campaigns for Jim Gaffigan. Terry Crews, relatively modest, if you can say that, $600,000 to work with them on a campaign. So what I would say is that, and we'll talk about this, one of the things you do is if you have a budget like that and you're going the celebrity route, we absolutely can do that. We priced a bunch of this for a big brand, a consumer brand client of ours. But also, if you don't have that kind of budget, if you use multiple tiers of influencers, create a portfolio of influencers, do it strategic, play a little money ball, look for undervalued influencers, you can get similar effects and spend nowhere near this kind of money. All right, next question. Which viral photo had more comments? These are both viral photos. Tired nurse, it's been a long day, or Matt from Walmart, just has a style of his own. Matt from Walmart, what do you think? Which had more viral comments. These are two things that went viral a few years ago. It is. You're doing great at this. Both did well. Tired Nurse had 17,000 comments due to its emotional connection, while Matt from Walmart had actually a pretty good 16,000 comments as well, just for the unique style. But usually, so, there's a very, sometimes the quality of post between, let's say, two different influencer posts, they look similar. But if one can get at sort of an emotional underpinning, even if you're selling a product, even if you're doing something else, and you can sort of ladder to these emotions better, they generally do better. So that's the influencer game. Let's talk about why influencer marketing is such a powerful channel, and then and let's use that to kind of set up sort of some of these new rules. So specifically, how can we use influencer marketing? Well, a few things. I mean, one, a lot of folks trust images created from influencers more than images from brands. So if you have an influencer using a photo or a graphic, let's say, of a product or a service or experience, it's often more trustworthy. Also, new consumers are discovering new brands from influencer posts. So we sometimes, actually, I think we'll talk about this, but one of the ways to have the worst results of an influencer campaign is sort of misalign the campaign with the purpose of the campaign. Oh, this is meant to drive sales conversion, but we've kind of structured it as a brand engagement campaign. Oh, we're trying to capture, amazing content, but we've structured it like a product demo. Oh, we're trying to align to the values of our brand. Let's say we care about, we wanted people to know we're a sustainable brand, but we didn't structure it around those values. So there's many reasons to do a campaign. One of the ones to do them is have your new brand be discovered. But if we're doing that, the mechanics of how that is set up has to be a lot different than if we're just going for pure engagement or if we're just going for pure sales. So it's a great discovery channel, but you got to kind of know what you're doing. So that's another thing. A lot of folks, 64% under age 30, actively follow influencers on social media. So it's interesting because, yes, it's in certain demographics, influencers are even more influential. And so a lot of times we'll have clients that are brands that play across the multiple sort of demographic spectrum, and they're not doing influencers and certain audiences, and they are doing it in others. And so being kind of aware, and particularly if you're trying to get your brand or your client's brand to trend a little bit younger, it can be very important. Okay. And then finally, a lot of folks have purchased a service after seeing an influencer use it. And so it's a way of, and sometimes we talk to our clients about this, if you are, someone that does, it's important for someone to try your product, experience your product. Can you think about using influencers in a way to give that experience, even if people aren't trying it directly, particularly for those that are hard products to experience before you actually buy it? Is there a way to get that experience? And that's why we see the rise of things like unboxing videos on YouTube. Even that notion of unboxing, right? Starting with the box itself is meant to mimic the experience so you can get a personal experience, even though you haven't had it. And the best, unboxing videos do that. So this is from 2020, and then there's an update to the pandemic. Influencer marketing consistently earns higher engagement and conversion than traditional advertising. In 2020, it really started to shift, and it's even become more so. So that brings us to 10 new rules of influencer marketing. And let's start with the first new rule. And these are some new rules. So we have at Top Worldwide, I should say, we have, it's kind of the parent agency. We're worldwide, and we have different agencies as part of that. PR Hacker is one of them. And so we're kind of pulling from their sort of 10 top principles here. So rule number one, leverage groups over individuals, leverage groups over individuals. And what I want to talk about is how no single influencer usually has the perfect audience, but groups of influencers help custom tailor a perfect fit. Now, sometimes clients or prospective clients come to us and they are thinking about groups, but they're thinking about it a little bit differently. They're thinking about it saying, yeah, we're going to use several influencers because we want reach. We need reach. That's why we're using several, because we can't afford Kim Kardashian. We can't afford these lower levels. So give us 3 or 4. But what I want to actually talk about is how crafting an audience can be done through influencers by putting them together. So lots of times we'll look at, we want to reach these kind of niche audiences. Oh, let's see, like this is our primary audience, but for instance, we do a lot of work in the pet space. Let's reach an audience, more of an LGBTQ plus audience. Let's reach them, or let's reach an audience of, there's a different use case for this. Let's look at that. So one of the things you can do is if you think about your personas and you're running a campaign, it doesn't have to be all of one thing. You can also think about like, how do I craft the different personas I want to reach in a different way as part of one campaign? And how do I have influencers who reflect that? So here's an example of that. We did a campaign for Milk-Bone, and the challenge was to get people to treat their dogs. And if you're from around the world and you don't know Milk-Bone, I mean, Milk-Bone is that sort of iconic US dog treat brand. And the goal was, let's get some treats given out for Valentine's Day, some Milk-Bones. But we can't do this campaign on Valentine's Day because it's too late to buy anything. We've got to do it before. So how do we essentially shift the cultural calendar? And so the solution was, we created Doggy Date Night on February 3rd, so 11 days before Valentine's Day. And we used 20 influencers, 7 paid and 13 unpaid, to spread the word about this holiday. So essentially the concept was, let's create, this is the night to have, a romantic date with your dog, hence the picture there. And let's use some influencers to establish it. So some of the content, some of the content that came from it, but it was all like people and sort of and seeded by essentially 20 influencers to get the results. And so the results were, because we concentrated at this moment, 1,000 participants in 2 hours, organic reach of 10 million people, 77 million impressions, about 7,400 posts, and some of the top posts were retweeted more than 200 times. So one of the things that you can do is, if you're using groups of influencers, using them in a strategic way, adding a time dimension to try to get the posts sort of more compact, in this case, in just a 2-hour window, that has more value than extending it over, very typical, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. If we take those same 20 influencers to do that, we don't have nearly the same impact. So if we can use groups of influencers coordinated well, activating a certain moment, we can get great power from that. And sometimes it's harder than it looks to do that, because now influencers marketing, it's become a profession. I mean, there's professional influencers and they've got a backlog of projects they've got to work on too. That's where having the relationship can really help, because sometimes they're like, yeah, we would, I'd love to do this, but I can't get to this for 2 months. And you're like, okay, but we have a relationship. Can you help us out here? And they're like, okay, I'll put you to the front of the line. Okay, let's get this done. So brings us to new rule number 2, layer multiple influencer tiers. So these are travel influencers by the numbers that we track, whether that's, 5,800 with reach, greater than 10,000, 1,300 with reach greater than 100,000, 113 with reach greater than 1 million. Lifestyle, similar kind of breakdown as you go sort of go up in reach. Automobile, I want to show some with a lot lower numbers, right? 224, 61, 14. So one of the things you do is that I think is possible. I think not enough brands think about it in this way, is using multiple influencer tiers. We definitely have folks who say like, yeah, here's our major ones, and then sort of like fill out the rest with the minor ones. But I think actually in a campaign, it's a lot more rich if you use multiple tiers. So this is something for Laffy Taffy, where we had a celebrity, Joel McHale, on that sort of celebrity spectrum involved. We had a macro influencer, which is here, kind of famous online comic strip. And micro influencers, you see the family like Make America Banana Again. This is a campaign for Laffy Taffy, where we created kind of people for and against banana flavor Laffy Taffy. And this actually came from a social listening insight our agency had done, where we said, hey, people are super polarized on banana. You either love it or you hate it. Instead of, going away from that, let's lean into that. Let's lean into the controversy. Let's do that. So by having these multiple influencer teams, I mean, we had, Joel McHale, the celebrity, was doing about 3 different posts on this, but we had everything coordinated with all the others who were like commenting on his posts, and they were going back and forth, and they were using that to pull more people in the discussions. We had just like a lot kind of coordinated at once. And so I think doing that and using multiple tiers is, and so for Joel, the celebrity, I mean, we had, a lot of vetting, a lot of managers involved. We weren't really gonna, we had to negotiate to get the 3 posts. That was a little bit hard. We weren't gonna get a fourth on this one. But some of the other macro and micro, we could work with them a lot more. So we would sort of take what Joel did, put it through their lens to their audience by having them comment, having them go back and forth, having them like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, Joel just agreed with us on banana flavor, and then use that to expand the reach. And you can do that when you use multiple influencer tiers. All right, new rule number 3, score your targets on key objectives. So here's some evaluation criteria. It could be topic authority. We talked about audience size versus audience fit. Visual appeal. It's often a visual medium. I mean, especially if you're going to be on something like TikTok, right? I think you don't see a ton of like bad looking people on TikTok, right? It's just kind of the nature of the medium. Creative capability. Can the influencer produce creative content that adds value? So these are all sort of different ways to kind of score. And I think thinking about that scorecard in advance is a great way to, like, when it comes down to, you're like, is this person worth, they want $2,000 more for this campaign? Are they worth it? When you have the criteria, it's helpful. So here's what a scorecard might look for us. Looking at, okay, for this person's food related campaign, there are 9 on their food focus. There are 9 on health conscious. There are an 8 on engagement with fans. And we sort of wanted an element of fitness in this. They're sort of fitness-ish. We kind of give them a 6 for that. So that's how that kind of score works. So one of the things that is just helpful is, and particularly anyone who does this for clients too, is if you can establish that scorecard early, it makes the decisions about who you pick really, really apparent, and removes a lot of sort of the subjective part, like, yeah, I'm just not feeling them, I'm not sure. When you're a little bit more score related, it makes it easier. So new rule number 4, develop relationships instead of transactions. So I actually want to show you, when you have a relationship with an influencer, we work with this influencer on 3 different campaigns. One for Bowflex, big budget client. Another for Laffy Taffy, medium budget client. Another for 3 Bridges. They make these pasta and egg bites you probably see in the refrigerated section of the supermarket. It was like no budget, pretty much nothing. So because we had a relationship with Stephanie, we were able to work with her in 3 different capacities. And she knew that, like, hey, if she helped us out on 3 Bridges a bit right now, there's going to be other stuff. We're going to get her more of the Bowflexes of the world. And there's that trust built up. So if you're at a brand and you're thinking about, like, do I do this in-house? Do I not do this in-house? And you can always kind of bring things in-house over time. I think one of the things that, like, a great agency will give you is, like, people work with us, is like, we have enough other projects going on too, that, people will kind of like help us out with a favor because they know they'll be taken care of in the end. Like, great example of that was, we needed some folks to work on a sort of a vacuum related campaign. And we also were doing a campaign for Mercedes at the same time. Everyone wanted to be in that Mercedes campaign, right? Kind of a prestige brand to be a part of. And people knew that it sort of helped us out in the vacuums, which, by the way, was actually an awesome campaign too, because you got a free vacuum. But besides that, they knew that we would try to find other ways to do that. So I think developing relationship is key. And if you can develop relationships with influencers over multiple brands and products, that's potentially really valuable, because you can find out a way. And one of the things I would also say is, the more in developing the relationship, the more informal the communication channel can be, usually is the better for getting stuff done. So I've seen influencers where, we're talking to them over email, kind of formal, pricing is one thing. Got them into, like, either WhatsApp chat or Discord or text message, and you're able to get responses back in 5 minutes instead of like 3 days. And you're just like, hey, can we just work something out here? What can we do? I'll make life easy for you. What do you need? Can you just help us out budget wise? And you can just get stuff done. So I think those relationships actually make an impact. And especially if you can get out of, like, sort of a formal channel, it makes a huge, tremendous difference. Okay, new rule number 5, time your message to seize the moment. So we think about identifying windows of an opportunity. So it's like, how can we be relevant to the cultural conversation? Or if you're doing,
it's 12:30.
There you go. It's timing, right? It's 12:30 where I am. So can you be relevant to the what's going on. And that's the cultural conversation. That's the industry conversation. If you're B2B, if there's like, a big conference going on, everyone's talking about, for instance, we did a bunch of influencer work with cybersecurity companies and RSA, which is the big cybersecurity conference. Let's be relevant then. So one of the things I think people sometimes forget is they think of window of opportunities in terms of, okay, like sales windows or drive periods, which is good, but also it's cultural conversation, it's industry conversation. How do we allow ourselves to be relevant? And I've seen campaigns where, like, let's say they didn't perform that as well when they weren't timed right, and you put them in the right timing and they did great. Like sales conversion was amazing. Okay, so here's an example of something we did for Shady Brook Farms, and this is all during March Madness, NCAA basketball in the US, and we were kind of creating a lot around these sort of special holidays, Soup Week, Appetizer Week, Barbecue Week, tied into March Madness, where timing made a tremendous difference. And one of the things I want to share is, if you haven't seen it already, if you go to nationaltoday.com online, we actually built a website. It's the most popular website in the world now for viral holidays. 10 million visitors per month, 10,000 media outlets use it to know what is the source of truth for these holidays. Like, when is National Dog Day? When is National Respect Your Cat Day? When is National Margarita Day? When is a holiday that we created, such as we created for Williams-Sonoma, National Peppermint Bark Day? And what I was trying to get to was I want to show some influencer blueprints to show about how we scale creativity. So we believe in something called structure creativity. What that means is structure done well makes you more creative, not less creative. So here's an example of some of our like sort of blueprints for how to structure influencer campaigns. We have like the fave story, where this is like, let's have personal stories that share a spotlight on our sort of category, our experience with the category. That's sort of a type, sort of a creative construct. Another one is local view. So how can we experience the benefits of our product or service through the unique local view of our influencer audience? Like it's kind of like a day in the life. That's another way to structure. Scavenger is another type. Scavenger is all about how do we send the influencers in our audience on a hunt for what they're looking for, and that helps experience our brand. Challenge, how do we motivate people to actually use the product by issuing a challenge? For Harmless Harvest coconut water, we issued the 14 Days of Harmless challenge that align with their brand values. Photo wow, how do we use the fact that social media is a visual medium? And how do we use that to structure an influencer campaign? So create live. Let's do a special live streaming event like they're part of a brand's inner circle. Remember when? Let's think and let's sort of like activate the emotion of nostalgia. Join a cause. Let's sort of talk about kind of like the goodwill in the context that we can associate our brand with that. So all of those are different ways to structure things. We actually have 20 plus different sort of influencer creative blueprints as a way to structure things. And I think the sort of gold standard is, how can we give a framework that like allows influencers the opportunity to shine with their own voice? No one likes to be told what to do, but how do we create one of these constructs, one of the structures that allows creativity to flourish? And I think that's good advice for anyone here too listening, where you're like, yeah, I love influencers because, they can kind of show, not tell our product, but like, we've got to be specific on what they're saying. It makes me nervous that they could say something that we definitely cannot have. So how do you do that? It's through structured creativity. You create a framework, but then give them freedom within that framework to express themselves. So new rule number 7, systematize the production process. So this shows you what might look like an 8-week influencer campaign, from discovery for a week, contacting them for a week, giving them time to create for a week, activating for 4 weeks, and 1 week on reporting. Very typical time frame. But if you have enough of this systematized, you can get things happening. We've done things in 1/3 of the time if we have all these kind of going together. So what we recommend is like, take each part of the process. If it's test, optimize, and perform, that's the name top, and be like, how do we get more efficiency, more effectiveness at each part? Systematize as much as you can, and it allows you to do some things later that you never thought were possible. When like, hey, there's an opportunity that this happened for a recent B2B client where there was a kind of a window. They were mentioned by some sort of prominent influencers by accident, like just organically. They want to suddenly run an influencer campaign on top of that to get more to jump on that. We're able to move in 2 weeks to move very, very fast because we had enough of these parts of the process systematized. New rule number 8, encourage authentic self-expression. So one of the ways that influencer marketing has true and lasting value is that you have to make it different than an ad. If it resembles an ad, I mean, you can have really good ads, right? Like there's some ads that are amazing, but an ad has like sort of a limited shelf life. When it's authentic self-expression, you can get, I mean, that's when you have the campaigns that like deliver like 100x ROI compared to what you expected, it's because you've done this. So authentic self-expression is what separates influencer marketing from just like a form of advertising. So that's why it's really important. So, you know, what's interesting is that 6 out of 10 consumers say that authenticity is the most important quality in an influencer. So, you know, and what does authenticity mean? I mean, you know, people realize, you know, people aren't stupid. They realize they're like being sold to. They realize that influencers have deals with brands. But did they take it because it was a money grab, or they take it because they're authentically, genuinely excited? And they're so excited, in fact, that it makes perfect sense for them to partner with the brand because they love it so much. And that's a hard thing to fake. And specifically hard to fake to an audience that knows you pretty well if they're following you and if they are your most engaged audience, right? Your average run-of-the-mill person, like, you know, might not know, but the audience knows when you're doing it. So that is really important. So what I try to emphasize to our clients is authenticity is valuable currency to you. And you don't want to stamp it out. You don't want to stamp it out. You want to encourage it. So you've got to create a framework where they can be authentically who they are in their own voice. You don't want to say, oh, you said it like this, but we prefer if you say it like that. You can give guidelines, but you've got to make it authentic. What I want to show you here is this one, authentic quality. So this is something for Egg Bites and Laffy Taffy. These were totally unplanned, and both of these posted well. On the left is kind of a sort of a bad dad joke. What kind of tree grows in your hand? A palm tree. And on the right was sort of this like plate of delicious egg bites turned into a little bit of artwork. So these were posts that did real well for us. They were unplanned because it was in the influencer's authentic voice. So you need to give a framework that sort of says like, okay, here's where we want to play, right? On Laffy Taffy, we're trying to emphasize some of the joke aspects of it, but also the kind of jokes that are sort of like not funny unless you laugh with your kids. And then the other side on Egg Bites, we just like gave people, we said, we want to show how our breakfast makes things fun. We didn't tell them make a cool little like animals out of the Egg Bites, but he did do that because we gave that framework. So it's about sort of setting that framework and letting authentic self-expression come out. New rule number 9, give your audience a reason to engage. So what makes an idea easy to spread? Let me give you one. Simple. It's got to be easy to spread. Why? Because if it's complex, it takes forever to explain. It's got to be simple. It's got to be surprising. It's got to break the expectation in some way. Simple or significant is the other. So we want, if we're kind of going back to this new rule here, give your audience a reason to engage. Can we create campaigns that are simple? I get what it's about. They're surprising. Oh, I haven't seen that one before in this way. It's significant. We're saying something more important. So this is an example of a campaign our team worked on called the Cheerios Challenge. And it was all about stacking Cheerios. I don't know if you've done this, Tom, on a baby while they're sleeping.
I haven't, but now I want to.
Obama, now you want to try this one out. Even President Obama was doing that on his stuffed animal. So this actually came from like a simple, surprising, significant way we wanted to do is we wanted to show, you know, that like dads are fun. Right. And we wanted a campaign that did that, and fun dads like Cheerios, and it's a fun part of it. And so this just became a very simple idea, right? Kind of like, wow, babies sleep pretty soundly. Let's get some Cheerios on them. Is it surprising? Hadn't seen it quite in that way before. Is it significant? It actually was significant in the sense of like, you know what? Dads are fun dudes, right? Like they're fun people to have around. They're, you know, we don't celebrate enough dadness and what they do with babies, and sometimes crazy stuff like stacking Cheerios. So it had all of that, and that's why that campaign did really well. Okay, and new rule number 10, measure results and reward performance. So this is some of the tracking engagement that we do in real time. The key here is that you don't have to wait till the end of the campaign to reward and to do more. If you see stuff going great, double down on it, add fuel to the fire. Let's get things to spread. And when you see things doing that and you're quick and you're nimble and you're organized, you can do more things in real time. And that's when you, one, get incredible results. That's when you develop deep relationships with influencers. And so if you're tracking this on an ongoing basis, don't wait till the end of the campaign to do your report.